All right, guys. I'm sure we'll have a few more joining as we kick things off. I hope you're all doing well and ready for an engaging session with Susan and Peter. I'm Kirsten from the BOA events team, and we're thrilled to have you all here. With me on the call today is Laura and Beck from the BOA team. Before we get started, here are some important points. Please keep your microphones muted to minimize background noise. Use chat for questions and comments. This session is being recorded for later viewing. The session will run for about 30 minutes, followed by a Q&A. If you encounter technical issues, message our team in the chat for assistance. And if you've missed our alerts, we've just rolled out a new version of the app, version 1.7.7. And with it comes new communities and events that you can attend in person and virtually. So to be sure to check that out on your latest version. All right, so get ready to meet our special guests, Susan Werkner and Peter Applebaum. They're directors at the Agency Accelerators and have invaluable advice on steering your business through tough times. With business facing economic uncertainties and finding ways to tackle these challenges is crucial. Susan and Peter will uncover how to grow your business even in tough situations. Please give a warm welcome to Susan and Peter in the chat. Thank you for joining us today. Now let's hear from the both of you.
Well, thank you so much for everyone being on the session today. We're excited to give this webinar. We've given it a few times before and it always resonates. Our focus is very much to add a huge amount of value in these uncertain times, and it is uncertain economically. I guess around the world there's a lot of uncertainty, but we're here to help you we always say that if you are an economy of one. Basically, you can focus on your own world, your own economy, despite what's happening around the rest of the world and the rest of the country and even the rest of your area. If you're an economy of one and you have a rock solid way of growing ruthlessly, we've found with ourselves and with our clients that it's certainly something that protects you from a lot of the vagaries of what is out there. So, of course, we've got all the headlines, interest rates going up, doom and gloom, bankruptcies, recession, markets plummet, all those sorts of things. And you can obviously add other things that are going on in the geopolitical space as well. We're being a bit more positive, and we're not doing it in just an empty Coach Carter, rah, rah, you can do it sort of way. We're going to give you some very specific strategies that you can use to really grow your business no matter what the time. Because as we always say, the pie may be smaller, but there's still a pie. And it's a very important distinction. It's not just a positive thinking, it's true. Unless the economy completely evaporates, disappears, and there's no demand for anything from anyone, there is still an economy there that we can all take advantage of. So what we're here to help you today is to make sure you're one of those organizations and one of those professionals that can get ahead no matter what happens. Because these are some of the businesses that started during uncertain times, and you might recognize some of them. Some of them, like Disney, for example, started during the Great Depression. Uber started during the GFC, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these Australian and global companies have gone on and been pretty successful. I'm sure you'd agree. So what we're saying is that they can do it. Why not you? And I think that's a very key point to understand and to remember. The other point to remember is that less than 10% of companies have implemented any type of predictable program to rapidly build their revenue. And that's what that says, is that that's a really huge opportunity for you, that if you have a specific business development program in place to grow your business, not just manage your clients, not to just do the best, give the best advice or the best consulting, but to really focus on growing your business and have specific strategies and a specific program to help you to achieve that, it really puts you in a position of far greater strength and solidity and certainty and predictability than the vast majority of other businesses, your competitors in particular. We've been in the digital marketing space for more than 20 years. And I always said to our clients that it's like, you might not necessarily have the best digital marketing program, but one of the things you need to remember is that your competitors probably aren't doing as good a job as you are doing, and they don't know as much as you know. So if you're that much better than the rest of the world, you don't necessarily need to be perfect, but if you're actually showing up consistently and doing things effectively and meeting market needs, you're certainly going to have that advantage. So let's have a look at why clients want to work with you. As obviously the BOA community, there's obviously a lot of competition in all the areas in every market. So let's have a look at why clients would want to work with you. And if this isn't you, I guess have a think about what you can do, because these are the sorts of reasons that clients, small, medium, and large, would want to work with you. You've got fresh thinking. You're passionate. Obviously, you wouldn't be on this program. You wouldn't be a small business owner if you weren't passionate, because without passion, you're going to get mowed down by the rest of the market. You have creativity. You have incredible customer service. And of course, and this is important, you're cost effective as well. So it's very important to take all of those, remember all of those elements every single day, because it's so important to remember that when you're up against the rest of the market. And I think one of the biggest things we say to our clients is you've got to get out of your own head. You've got to put yourself into the head of your market, your prospect, your customers, which sounds like an obvious thing to do. But when you think about it, we always know everything about ourselves, everything about our business. Most of the times there are so many things about our prospects' businesses and their careers and their lives that we know very little about. So the more that we find out about what their fears, needs, wants, and desires are, the better placed we are to be able to actually give them the solutions that they're looking for. So we're now going to have a look at four powerful ways you can get at least one new client in the next 30 days. And I'm going to hand over to Susan.
Thank you, Peter. So so one of the key questions a lot of our clients and I guess companies that we speak to, everyone wants fast results. So there is a way in which you can get one new client in 30 days. And I guess it has four key steps that you really have to go through to make sure that you can land that client. And I know, for example, we are in November, just for example. November into December, often people say it's not a good time to be prospecting. It's actually a great time to prospect, because now is a good time where people are actually thinking of the following year, 2024. So if some of your clients have had not such a great year this year, you can help them have a better year next year. So I think it's always a good time to implement a program, but particularly end of year and beginning of the year, we find is actually very good, especially if you're targeting Australia is one. We do go on holidays, but in the US, for example, they work right through. They have very few holidays. So have a think about who your clients are, and then you'll be able to determine which are the best targets to implement this four-step process we're going to walk you through this morning. So firstly, what's the most important aspect? The most important aspect is really identifying your most profitable niche. So what that means is your niche could be either a segment, could be an industry, could be a service, whatever it is, you need to identify very clearly that you are solving a problem that your clients have. That is number one. And crafting your offer so that it resonates with those clients and they can see that you can solve that problem for them. So one of the key things is, why would they work with you? As Peter said quite rightly, if you're a service business, a consulting business, there would be over 15,000 in Australia alone, just in marketing agencies, let alone if you expand that to consulting agencies, there'll be at least 30, 40,000 competitors, if not more, across Australia. So really have to think about, what is your differential advantage? What is going to make your prospects or your clients look at you as someone that can really solve that issue that they have, that they've been wanting to solve and keeps them awake at night? So that's one of the key number one steps that you really need to think through and need to go through.
And Susan and I, for many years, have run our own marketing agencies, service businesses, in other words. And we always had that question, what makes us different? What is our USP, our unique selling proposition, or at the very least, our differential advantage? And it's hard. It's not an easy question to answer. And it's like, it could be your geography. It could be your background. It could be your black book, your digital black book as they are today. There's so many different ways you can have a differential advantage. What we've found with the hundreds of businesses or thousands over the years that we've spoken to, they're often saying, oh, look, we're just an IT company, IT consultancy, or we're just an architectural firm or lawyers or marketing agency. There's nothing different about us. Well, there isn't if you don't do the work. It's very important to go through the process of identifying what your differential advantage is. And of course, the other side of that, your differential advantage, which is why it's an advantage, of course, is that you need to be relevant to your market. It needs to be something that your market needs and wants and is readily identifiable as to, okay, well, let's just say you're an agency and you're targeting alcohol companies. It's like if you are an alcohol specialized PR company, it's like there's only one alcohol market specialized PR company in Australia. That's why you need to work with us. So we have far greater experience. We have a far greater footprint in the market you're trying to influence than anyone else. And I think that is a differential advantage. It's not the only thing, but it is a good tent pole that you can then build from.
And I think just to add to that, Peter, is that I guess, as we said, this 4-step strategy, it is a strategy. That's the biggest takeaway, one of the biggest takeaways from this morning as well. You must have a strategy. Most consulting businesses, service businesses, agencies, they start off with tactics. They do a bit of LinkedIn or they might do a bit of email marketing. It has to be a holistic, strategic approach to really looking at your prospects, your market, and what makes you different. And a lot of things that Peter and I do with our clients is really honing in on what is it that makes you different from your competitors. It doesn't have to be totally different. It's just some edge that you have that will resonate with your prospects and your clients. That is going to help you open those doors that you want to get clients from within 30 days, but also going forward. And it becomes the lifeblood of your business. Once you have this strategy in place, then you can actually build your business in a more sustainable way, a more predictable way, and try and avoid those terrible revenue traps where you have this abyss with next month's revenue because you don't know where your next client is coming from. So secondly, step 2 is really organic outreach. Once you have put together that strategy, then you actually need to start messaging those prospects that you want to work with in a very defined, very concise way, and in a way that's going to build trust. Because as we said, trust is very important in business. People work with people they like, they trust, and they know will solve their problem. Those are the 3 key things you need to really differentiate yourself once you've got your strategy in place. So email, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, wherever your clients are and customers, that's where you need to be if you want to decide which of those platforms to use. Some will be appropriate to you. If you're a B2B, we usually don't suggest Facebook, for example. But if you're a B2C, then maybe Facebook is relevant for you. So really have a think about, that's why the strategy is so important. Where are your customers? What are they viewing? And what will resonate in terms of the type of content you're sending them?
A comment we actually, sorry, Susan, just to make a comment. One of the comments we often get from clients, particularly in Australia, say that, we don't want to be salesy. Like on LinkedIn, we don't want our content to be salesy. We don't want to be just go send people a connection request or a message and saying, hi, John, we're architects and we do fantastic architectural plans and we love to connect with you. We don't recommend that at all. It's not about being salesy. It's about being value adding. Going back to the first point about you understanding your niche, and really understanding what your advantage is to the market. Really become a thought leader. Go there and become a thought leader and someone who is an expert in their area. And that way, the transition from an initial contact through to, we really need to talk. Your prospect may say that because we have a need and it sounds like you're an expert in this area. It makes it much easier than just saying, hi, we do SEO or we do architecture or we're lawyers, for example.
Exactly. So I think, as we said, so it's very important to make sure that you understand your prospect. That's key. And then the messaging you have is, as we said, the mindset has to change. You're not selling. Though there are people out there that are hurting, that are in pain, and they need your solution. And that's how you have to think. You are providing a service that is going to help them. And that's how the messaging, that is how the content you're producing, all has to be placed in that systematic way. So, and add thought, leadership, and value consistently. As we said, reciprocity is very important in business. If you do something nice for another business associate or colleague, invariably they'll want to also do something nice for you. So adding value nowadays is a beautiful way to build those relationships. It's a great way to get your foot in the door with clients that might have been cold a few months ago, even a few weeks ago. So adding that type of organic outreach in the right way really helps you to nudge that door open that you probably have found very difficult up to now.
Back in the day, if you worked for a company and you were in business development in B2B particularly, they would say, okay, here's a mobile phone, or here's a phone, here's a telephone book, go for it. Now, those are the days long ago. And more recently it was like, here's a phone, here's a computer, go get clients. Now we have so many more advantages and opportunities that we never had in the past, being in the business growth area, because we can have so many more quality touch points than we ever had before. We've got their warm calling. A lot of people are saying, oh, I hate cold calling. And cold calling can be brutal, but calling someone can be the most effective way of getting in touch with them and actually moving the conversation along, literally, obviously, rather than just sending an email or just putting a LinkedIn post. All of those things are important. But again, as we said before, it's having those additional quality touch points that we were never able to have before. But it's important to recognize and understand this is an omni-channel approach. It's not just one. You don't just go on LinkedIn and it's one and done. You've got to have LinkedIn, you've got to send out emails, you've got to make calls, doing what we're doing today, having webinars. We're huge fans of webinars and content marketing. It's really saying, okay, gosh, we really need a new architect. I think we need to speak to Michelle. I keep seeing so much fantastic stuff that she's doing. We've got to call her. We've had so much new business and so many leads as a result of showing up. As one of the points there, be where they are.
And I think to that point as well, Peter, I think the warm calling, that's one that a lot of, or even just phone calling people, sometimes it seems that it can be harder nowadays because people are obviously not all working from the office, they're working from home. But there are ways that you can actually still call them. And if you have a strategy for the phone call, even if it's a cold call, you will find that they can be very positive towards you when you're doing a cold calling. I know Peter and I mean, basically Peter and I started our businesses, our agencies, mine 18 years ago, Peter over 20 years ago. And that was the days where really there was really no Facebook, etc. So I guess for us, calling and meetings were the only way we could grow the business. So I think that's an area that can be utilized even in today's world. But the good news is you don't have to have those cold calls. You can actually have warm calls following a strategy that provides exclusive content to those prospects, so you warm them up before you actually call them. And that's what we mean by warm calling. They already know who you are and they know that you might be able to solve their problem. They're not sure yet, but at least they know who you are and they take your call. So we also say create thought, not agreement, when you're providing content. What do we mean by that? We mean you don't want to be bland. If your content is bland and looks like everyone else, I mean, there's stats, for example, on LinkedIn. Actually, Peter, what are the stats in the number of people who are on LinkedIn actually liking or putting content out there?
900. Well, I think it actually just tipped over to 1 billion. So let's go back to what LinkedIn officially says. There's 950 million accounts on LinkedIn. 260 million of those are regularly on LinkedIn, at least once a month. And of those, roughly about 30 million actually posts. So it's, if that, maybe it's only 3 million. Only 3 million.
It's 3 million, I think. So
only 3 million actually post.
So that's why we're saying there's still a huge opportunity for every one of the businesses today on this call to really have your strategy together and have a content plan that is going to resonate with those prospects, and you're bound to get new clients. We guarantee it. That's the way sales and marketing in a very strategic way works. So the third part of the strategy is really helping you to automate your prospecting. It is so difficult owning your own business. As entrepreneurs, we find that we do everything. So for us, the biggest problem we have is time, of course, how much time we spend on the business, in the business. We still want to have a life. We have families, we have children, we have other activities we want to do. So you don't want to spend all your time prospecting. So we highly recommend automating your prospecting. And we do have a tech stack that we recommend that you utilize, and that provides you with a lot more time to actually work on the business as well, and making sure that you're delivering quality service to the clients and looking at the strategy for your business overall. So create the industry and company specific content for your marketing. Now with ChatGPT, a lot of our clients are using ChatGPT just for the initial content, but never use ChatGPT, blogs, or anything else, because invariably someone else can put in the same prompt and they'll have the same article. And there's certain words that ChatGPT just reiterates all the time that nowadays people know that that's a ChatGPT article, blog post, white paper, whatever it is that you're doing. So we definitely suggest, for example, ChatGPT can be a great tool, but it's only just one tool in your arsenal in getting those clients to speak to you and to work with you. So make sure you customize any content that you do and have your personality and your brand stamped all over it. Then let Google do the work. Search engine optimization is very important. If you can have you've got a great website, you've got a great story, but if no one is coming to your website, they don't know who you are, they're not really finding out where you are. So SEO is another armor that we suggest, or part of your armor you need to include when you're doing your sales and marketing to build your prospect funnel. Webinars, as Peter said earlier, this is one of countless webinars we've now done, I think, over the last few years. And they become ubiquitous now. Companies are really doing webinars in order to attract, even if it's a small group, you actually are in front of people that are interested in what you're talking about. So you have a wonderful opportunity to chat to them, get them to ask questions, and build your actual profile with them. So we definitely think webinars are great, and they can be sliced up into content across different channels as well. The other ones, of course, is Google, Facebook, LinkedIn ads. All of these can be important in helping you to build your profile. That's something that we've done a lot. We've actually just launched a newsletter, which we last week, our first one, and we've had fantastic response to that. So implementing certain activities and content that is going to get you noticed is all going to help you move you along that line to getting more clients. And outsource your outreach. So another, as we said before, time is probably the most valuable commodity we have. None of us have time to be looking after our staff, looking after clients, doing business development, and then having a life as well. So we always suggest you outsource it, whether it's to a local person you can outsource the outreach strategy once it's developed, or virtual assistants. We have trained virtual assistants that we also recommend to our clients. They will actually literally put together, once the strategy is in place, they will manage that 5 days a week for you at a fraction of the cost of what it might cost you to have a marketing person within your firm. So that's another aspect that's really important, to make sure your time is used in the areas that are most valuable for your growing your business. Now, number 4, the final step is closing the sale. So closing the sale is always can be the hardest, and it depends who you're talking to. A lot of our clients are wanting bigger budgets and bigger clients. If you're talking about bigger budgets and bigger clients, and we're talking about $500,000, $1 million clients, or $5 million budgets,
or 50,000. I mean, it depends on how it's all relative.
That's right, or $50,000 exactly. They will take you time to build the trust and the relationship with them, for them to believe that you can solve the problem, and then you can then close a sale with them. So corporate clients will obviously take longer. Smaller clients can be much shorter, obviously. But having created that unfair advantage that we've talked about, those 3 steps before this, number 4, closing the sale, helps you to move them along the line. We always say that you want to move them along the sales journey in a very strategic way, in a very human, authentic way, providing value along the way. So when you are talking to them, they will have an element of trust with you already. And that's very important in building your business.
And allied to that, sorry, Susan, I keep interrupting you.
I'm happy. No, we have too much to impart.
It's so exciting. I think the other point to remember is that if you are targeting people who are employees, or they're working in even smaller organizations, but particularly in the medium to large organizations, they're cautious, they're risk averse, they don't want to make a mistake. The old expression, the old advertising expression from many years ago, no one ever got fired for choosing IBM. You need to make sure that you're the safest option in your niche, in your industry, because it's like if they don't choose you, there's got to be pain from their end and with their organization, because there's a risk that they're taking because you're the safest option. And by following the 3 steps and then this 4th step with all the steps that are involved, that's going to help to ensure that it's like you are the one that has that unfair advantage, as we're talking about. And I guess, sorry, just stepping on your toes a little bit, Susan, but procurement is kind of having worked with many procurement departments in medium to large organizations over the years, it can be difficult, it can be challenging, but ultimately they have their own needs and they have their own objectives. And if you can be the solution to those needs and objectives from the get-go and treat them as important as you would the department you're talking to, be it operations or marketing or business development or HR. They're the sorts of small, I think the what do they call the 1%ers in the sporting analogy? Those little 1% things that can make a big difference at the end of the day.
Thank you, Peter. And I guess the key we like to say is the triple M rule. So make sure the person you're speaking to in that small corporate, large corporate, whichever clients that you're talking to, do they have the triple M rule? Do they have the money to spend on this project? Do they have the mandate, as in the authority, to actually approve this project? And then the money, mandate, and the motivation is the third aspect. So are they motivated to actually work with you now, or is this a project that they might do in 6 months? Often we find people are reluctant in meetings with prospects to ask them those questions. It's very important that during those interviews, during those meetings with your prospects, you actually ask those questions, and you will actually look more professional when you ask those questions. Often we ask, what is your budget? Clients will often not tell you what the budget is, but it's a nice way to actually find out, do they have a budget in mind? What might be the size of the budget? Because the last thing you want is to waste time with individuals that don't have those three aspects, the triple M rule, because that can chew up a lot of your time, and you would be better off talking to other prospects that have a motivation to do it and the mandate and the money now, rather than 6 months down the track. And also develop internal champions. So what we often find, as Peter said, procurement can be a maze for some individuals that haven't worked with procurement in corporates before. We have definitely a number of strategies you can use to actually make sure that procurement is actually on your side. And that it can be very important, because often you'll find that your clients, whether it's a marketing manager, product manager, or finance person in a company you're working with, they themselves might be a little frustrated by procurement. If you can actually build internal champions around yourself when you're in those larger organizations, you will find that your client will actually be happier too, because they know you understand the processes that need to take place before they can work with you. And trade on their inherent risk aversion. Often clients are more scared of making an incorrect mistake or making a mistake in choosing a supplier. They'd rather not choose a supplier. That's how risk-averse corporates are. That's why they're not entrepreneurs. That's why they work in corporates, because they want the regular salary. They want to have security, and they're very conscious of their jobs. So their biggest fear is losing their job or not looking good in their job. They want to look good. They want to obviously be promoted within their position in the company. So if you can show them that you can help them to achieve their objectives, which often are very personal, not that they tell you that, but it's true, and you can help them move them along that sales process much faster if you can build up that trust and they know you can help them. So the guaranteed way to be successful no matter what. So here are just a few top of the line pointers to help you as well to be successful in getting those clients for yourselves. Firstly, ignore the naysayers. Because misery loves company. I mean, just on a personal note, I remember years ago when I started my agency, I remember I started with a piece of software, and everyone around me, especially I remember I had hedge fund managers, I had top investors, all said that my business was not of interest to the corporate clients. Anyway, 18 years later, obviously the naysayers were wrong. So never listen to naysayers. If you believe in what your service is or what your product is that you're selling, and you have the passion and the interest, you will succeed. I think that's really important to remember.
Sorry, a personal story I had. It's not so much about growing a business, but it was back in when I was a brand manager, marketing brand manager. I wanted to become a copywriter, an advertising copywriter, which was a huge leap. Very different skill set, very different background. And I went to see one of Sydney's top creative directors at the time, called Bryce Courtney, he of The Power of One, who later became a globally recognized author. And I'll never forget him saying, "Why do you want to become a copywriter? You don't get more women. It's hard work, and you probably won't get a job for 10 years. I'll never forget that. And of course, I kept going, and I got a job within 6 months. So just because someone says something with absolute certainty doesn't mean they're right.
Yeah, and I think for good entrepreneurs, that actually spurs you to success, if you ask me. And I think that's the important part. So as we said before, find your starving crowd. Where is it that there's a problem that is large enough, profitable enough for you to focus on, and you'll build a wonderfully successful business? And identify, promote your uniqueness and your genius. I believe that every single person on this planet has a genius. You just have to find yours. And if you haven't yet, that's where you need to focus. What is your genius? You will find and present services that are still different, still differentiated from your competitors, because you are the one offering that service, and you have built your business around your own skill set and knowledge and genius. So that's important.
We're actually sending out our newsletter to our email database, but also on LinkedIn to those who've subscribed to it, on imposter syndrome and how to deal with and hopefully eradicate imposter syndrome. And I think that if you have always say, and not in an arrogant way, of course, because no one likes arrogance, but if you can understand who you are and the value that you bring to the table, again, by following all these points, it can help you to be much more confident and feel that you fit in and you're an important part of the solution.
And then next, fourthly, relentlessly focus on customer retention and acquisition. So that is so important. Make sure that you are focused on customer retention. You know, many of our clients will land a big client, and for the next 3 months, busy servicing that client and forget about reaching out and their business development strategy. That is a surefire way to have those potholes of revenue during the year that you don't want. So make sure you really are focused on that business development. Focus on your customer retention and acquisition strategy. Much easier to keep a good client and start building warm clients than starting from scratch each 3 months or 4 months when you actually remember to reach out to new prospects. So the next one is ruthlessly add value. We always say, we've said this before, and we can't emphasize it enough. Often, service businesses, agencies don't want to give away their IP, and we're not saying you give away your essence of your IP, your secret sauce. That you can keep for yourselves, but enough value that your prospects will see that you know their market, you know their industry, you understand their problem, and you know how to solve it and make them look good. That's where you need to be adding value, and then add more. So always giving value to them will really help you to have those conversations with those clients. As we often say, conversations create cash. So the more conversations you can have with your prospects, the more cash you will bring into your business. That's a given. And keep showing up. As we said, call, email, meet, and then just keep repeating that sales and marketing program that you've implemented for yourself. Make sure you keep showing up, because that's, again, one of the areas that I think falls down is if you stop doing that for any length of time. So keep showing up. Now, the ongoing sales engine, as we've said before, equals business growth. So that's the key to the whole strategy. So I'll hand over to Peter now.
Thank you, Susan. Well, it's like you're not really handing over to me, given that I kept interrupting you. But anyway.
Oh, I'll interrupt you. That's fine.
Okay, so the harsh reality is that for some business owners and managers, this may seem all too hard or even impossible. They've got no time, they're flat chat, they're working 10, 12 hours a day as it is. They've got, as we've said, you've got your own life to lead as well. So I think that's a really important point to remember, that it's like, okay, so we need to do all these things, Susan and Peter, that's great, but I just don't have any capacity. What's the alternative? So how can you regularly generate high value warm leads for your company? So we've got 3 options. Firstly, you can do it yourself. And quite frankly, we've tried all 3 of these options. So we come from a place of experience and pain in some respects. We've done it ourselves, and it can be incredibly stressful because, as we said, you've just pulled in new clients. There's a lot of work to do for those clients, which is obviously important because that's how you make the money. You have staff, you have suppliers, you've got to pay the rent, you've got to deal with the landlord, any number of things that we entrepreneurs have to contend with on a daily basis. So you can do it yourself, but then you get overwhelmed and you say, what the heck is this all about? How can I actually get anywhere when I'm doing everything for myself? The second option is you could hire a business development person or team. Now, as you can see from the image, we're not huge fans of this approach. We've done it. We've hired 6-figure business development people, like on target earnings of $150,000, paying them a base of $80,000 or $100,000. And 3 or 4 months later, they go. or even if they don't go, they cost a lot of money, and 9 to 12 months later, they go because you want them to go. Let's just say that. It's really, really hard unless you have a medium to large organization where you can hire a sales team. And look, we've worked with a lot of clients who have a business development team. As long as they follow the process, the really key point to make here is that you as the business owner, and the business has to own the process. Often we find our clients say, oh, we've got so-and-so who's just, they're joining them, we're paying them a lot of money, but they've got great connections in the industry. That's great. And that's good as long as it helps them to bring in business for you. But what happens when they leave? So where's your business development program when they leave? It just comes to a screaming halt. I mean, again, we come from a position of experience, both having done the hiring, but also Susan and I having been business development people for service businesses back in the day. And that's exactly what happened to the companies that we worked with. I guess because we were so motivated and we followed the process that we're talking about here today, the business owners of the companies we worked with loved us and loved the business we were bringing in. But as soon as we left, they were scratching their head and saying, what do we do now? What we're suggesting to you is to be smart, and basically you, the business and the business owner, you own the process. And it doesn't matter who comes and works with you, whether they can slot into your process. That someone who works for you can enhance that process, but it's a bit like McDonald's. McDonald's is run by, I know it's a slight exaggeration, but McDonald's, a $20 billion company, is run by 15-year-olds. The reason they say that is the process is in place. And no matter whether you open up in Rome, Reykjavik, or what's an Australian place, Rockhampton, there you go, whether you're open up in Rockhampton, you have that process, and that process works. We're saying exactly the same thing. It's a rinse and repeat process that you can use for your business. So that's option 2.
And also, just can I add a point to that, Peter, is that hiring a business development team, as we said, we've tried both before. And having said that, we ourselves, although we're both business development people, we found, as we said before, as an entrepreneur, you have so many staff to look after, so many clients you want to look after, that we thought, okay, maybe we can have that business development person. Certainly with the companies that we work with, eventually, as you can see, both Peter and I, who is a business development person, and myself, what did we do? We ended up, we decided, why are we bringing in, millions of dollars for our organizations we work for? We might as well open up our own business and bring in money for ourselves. So that's another aspect of hiring a business development person. Sometimes is they can actually set out on their own. But as we said, if you're a bigger organization and you have a handful of business development people, if they have a process to follow, you can then slot people in and out, and it won't matter if they leave, because the process stays within the organization. And some of our clients who've implemented programs, a business development program, a number of our clients have actually been able to sell their service businesses because they did have an ongoing business development program in place in the company. It wasn't just the founder that was bringing in, it was the rainmaker. They had others who brought in the warm leads. Even if the founder was the one that closed those deals, a lot of the pre-work is done then by that business development team, or by the strategy being implemented by virtual assistant or someone else. So that's how it can work.
And that's the first 2 options. Option 3 is to work with a successful business growth specialist. Now, we know a couple who of these types of people who can help you.
Actually, there was one question I saw in the chat. So someone asked a question about how long do you have to be doing business development? Like, how long does it take? Which is a great question. So basically, it takes as long as it is good. So as we often say, so having a business development strategy can take 4 weeks to put together, 4 to 6 weeks, usually 4 weeks, depending on the size of clients and prospects you're going for. But then business development really should be an ongoing. So we would suggest you spend at least 5 hours a week, on really talking to new prospects, and having that strategy in place allows you to have that time to talk to those warm leads and make sure your time is being measured by those warm leads and clients coming in. So the business development program does take 4 to 6 weeks, but then it's an ongoing. So you can use that strategy year after year, month in, month out, especially if you have someone helping you to build that and to run it during the year. So I think that's something that a question that is a good question to have. A lot of people ask that question of us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. Well, a huge thank you to Peter and Susan for such an engaging conversation. And thanks so much for everyone who attended today as well.
Thank you
You're
all.
to connect with both
much.
Susan and Peter on the BOA app. Thank you,
team,
Susan.
and thanks for coming.
To see more of our events, head to the Thank you, Susan. To see more of our events, head to the events icon on the app, and also for community-based events, you'll find these inside your industry-based and local community groups. We will be sending shortly an email after this call, so please share your feedback on this event and tell us what you'd like to see in the future. We look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank you again. Hope to meet you all again.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Peter and Susan.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Our pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.